Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Wadier.
And I'm Tommy Welling, and you're listening to the Fasting for Life podcast.
This podcast is about using fasting as a tool to regain your health, achieve ultimate wellness, and live the life you truly deserve.
Each episode is a short conversation on a single topic with immediate actionable steps. We cover everything from fat loss and health and wellness to the science of lifestyle design.
We started Fasting for Life because of how fasting has transformed our lives, and we hope to share the tools that we have learned along the way. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Wadier, and I'm here, as always, with my good friend and colleague, Tommy Welling. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
Fantastic, my friend. We're in the holiday season. We've got one holiday left, and that is tomorrow, New Year's Day. So I want to wish everybody a happy new year. And I'm holding up, I know you can't see it, but This is a coffee cup that has the molecular structure of caffeine on it. Because if you've got little kids through the holiday season, you are running on caffeine. So
yeah, right.
If we missed you, happy holiday season to you. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Oh, happy birthday to my wife. Shout out to Jen. Happy birthday. Yeah, New Year's Eve.
Man.
Yeah.
Every year. Every year.
Yeah, she's not a big fan of it, because things are happening outside and, that kind of dictate what you can or can't do on your birthday. So usually we'll take a different day, like maybe the day before that, to kind of celebrate. So we have more options,
So Jen, if you're listening, unlike my wife, thank you for listening in. And I think you should just do you. Mm-hmm. So leave Tommy with the kids. Go do you. Take a day. Do what you want. Shut off the phone. Vanish off.
Just self-care, right?
Just go.
Yeah.
But what do I have to say? At least your wife listens to the podcast. So
occasionally she'll listen now that I mentioned that
now there's a birthday shout out.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we going to do today? So this holiday season, we put a really big focus, through November and December on myth busting some of the common misconceptions about weight gain and coaching and challenge. We have two incredibly successful challenges. One in end of October, beginning of November, and then one, the second week in December. And those are very strategic because, if you're in a slump, you don't need coaching. I mean, if you're in a slump, you need coaching. If you're on a hot streak, you don't need coaching, right? So we put a lot of time, effort, and energy into this time of year because we know there's more opportunity, there's more stress, there's less sleep. All that's going to connect to the episode we're going to do today. And we talked about labs and blood sugar and, we did a holiday top 10 Q&A and really setting ourselves up to close out 2024 and to start 2025 with just massive momentum. Lifestyle change doesn't happen overnight, right? You can do anything for a week. You can do anything for a month, right? But if you're looking about consistent transformation in terms of your weight loss journey and health, that's what we're about here at Fasting for Life. We always want to begin with the end in mind. So we're going to go over, and we did this a couple of years ago. We did not do it last year for whatever reason. I don't know why. I think we did one maybe like end of January. I was looking back trying to find it where we did like the new listener's guide to the Fasting for Life podcast or the OG's guide to 2024 year in review. Yeah. So shout out. If you're new, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. Thank you for giving us a shot. You're starting ahead of the New Year, New You, New Year's resolution game, right? So welcome.
Yeah. At least one day ahead.
At least one day. So you're ahead of your competition. If you want to go back and learn more about us, listen to episode 1, which we'll share some stats here in just a minute about too, which is really cool. That gives you insight into Tommy's journey, my journey, the similarities, how fasting has transformed our lives, ultimately why we've done this now for 262 episodes, nearing 4 million downloads.
Yes.
Tens of thousands of connections, hundreds of coaching clients, 6,300 folks approximately through our 7-day challenges, all the resources, et cetera. That first episode is going to give you a little insight into who we are and what we do and why we do it. And if you're an OG, thank you for ending the year with us.
Yeah.
And we really want to speak to how we're going to set up 2025 as the best year yet. And that's really kind of what our focus was with the most recent episodes, and getting more granular into individual specifics about labs and blood sugar and why does it matter. And, and really just shifting in prepping and planning for 2025. Because my wife and I do this every single year where we sit down and we look back at 2024. We'll take a night away from the kids and we'll actually plan and set some goals for our individual businesses, our collective household, and the family.
Oh, nice. I love that.
Right? So you're our fasting family. We want to do the same thing with y'all. We don't want this episode to be self-aggrandizing in any way. It's like, oh, look at all these great downloads and look at the episode. But we want to give you like the episodes that, and this is not just based on downloads. This is based on consumption time, downloads, feedback, emails.
Sharing. Yeah.
What was that?
Sharing, like when an episode is
metrics,
shared within a platform. Yeah.
So these are the ones that the top 10 list of 2024. So if you're new and you're going, wow, there's a lot of episodes, right? And then you listen to
where do I start?
Where do I start?
Right.
What do I do? This is going to be the starting point or the guide for you. And that's really our intention, is to give you kind of a roadmap or the highlights, so to speak, because we live in a world of 30 to 60 second clips, and on TikTok, which I do not have. I'm whatever. Call me grandpa, call me boomer, whatever. 43 years old, as my son likes to tell every new person or stranger we meet out in public.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Don't know why.
Get yourself a t-shirt,
yeah,
so
right.
they don't even
I'm 43. Don't ask.
Maybe I'll send that to you for your next birthday.
But we live, right? Thank you for that. We live, forget my birthday.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jen. We live in a world where it's all bite-sized little clips. So we want to give you kind of that roadmap, and we're going to do that going through these episodes. So
that's awesome.
Tommy, interestingly enough, there were some core themes, right? 4 of them that we're going to start with that popped up. And we'll go through each episode and just kind of give you the highlights, 1 or 2 bullet points from what that episode's about, give you the episode number. All of these can be clicked in the show notes. It'll take you to a pod link that'll bring you directly to the episode. And then there's some key success factors that we're going to talk about as well that really kind of are the connection points of why we believe that these are the episodes that were most engaged, most downloaded, most shared, most listened to, most consumed, so to speak. So it was really interesting to do this. Compared to 2 years ago when we did it at the end of 2023. No. Was that right? When did we do this last time?
End of 2022, I believe.
End of 2022, right. There was that gap. Thank you. So now with AI, we're able to go in and like dive deep into all of the analytics and metrics. So it's really cool to bring you rather than going through our Rolodex and be like, yeah, I really love that episode. And this one was great. And I remember this one.
Which one moved the needle?
Really the one, exactly. That's where I was going. Get on my brain is the one that moved the needle. So Tommy, let's start with the 4 core themes. Then we'll go through the episodes and we'll end with the key success factors.
Well, so, and one other thing I wanted to mention was just the fact that if you're hopping in and you're going like, okay, where do I start? First of all, there's no real bad way. There's no wrong way, to start. If you're just getting
set a timer, stop eating, go.
Yeah. But and the same thing with going back into the archives and listening to the podcast. But we wanted to kind of distill it down for you so you can kind of get the maximum return on investment, of your podcast listening time. So, the number one theme that we saw was sustainable lifestyle versus quick fixes. And I think that one is really cool because that's at the core of each conversation that we have, even if we don't talk about it explicitly. But if we don't have an eye towards sustainability and long-term success, then everything kind of becomes a temporary flash in the pan. And that's exactly what we don't want. But what so much of like diet and quote unquote health culture is oftentimes like fixated on. And, that goes to the second core theme, which was metabolic health beyond weight loss, which is really cool because we're in the middle of a metabolic revolution. And just the fact that we're able to kind of see an expansion of the application of metabolic health beyond weight loss is incredible. And then mental and mindset transformation, as well as practical application and putting in place systems for your lifestyle rather than just again, like flash in the pan. It's about the systems. It's what can I rely on? What can I make more automatic and more intuitive each day to really walk that lifestyle, that sustainable lifestyle out.
And that's really interesting too, to see, kind of the overall thread here is if you look at the statistics on where we are as a country in terms of lifestyle disease, healthcare costs spent, quality of life, life expectancy, we suck here in the United States.
Yeah. And we're
not good. And it's getting worse. We're seeing this stuff pop up in kids and blood pressure and fatty liver and all this stuff, right? So we talked a lot about labs and blood sugar and all that stuff over the last month in December. But if we go big picture, we always say, the science of lifestyle design, begin with the end in mind. I didn't start fasting because I was like, oh, this sounds fun. Right. I was like, is this going to get me to an end goal? And I had done some keto and fasting before. For me, it was, okay, all right, I'd seen your results. So I had a connection point. I was like, okay, it's working for you. So I, like I typically do, go full throttle into it, deep dive, like probably a little overboard, as I would say. And just like, bam, here you go. It's 48.5 pounds in 50 days, which I did not keep off after those first 50 days. 22 of it came.
Go back to flash in pan versus sustainable, right? Okay.
22, 20, almost 25 came back, and then I lost it again, and then 12 came back, and then I lost it again. Then I had a surgery, and 15 came back, and then I lost it again. And now I'm in that 5 to 8 pound window where I just live. So the lifestyle transformation, the statistics where we're at as a society, you can do the quick fix. You can do the weight loss diet culture strategy. You can do the 21-day boot camp. You can do the I'm just going to wing it, right? And those four are the opposite of the core themes of sustainability, the metabolic health component beyond weight loss, the mindset mental shift that needs to take place in our core values, and the practical application and system. So I want to give a shout out to the blueprint the blueprint to fasting for fat loss.
Yeah.
Our most downloaded resource this year. And if you're looking like, I need a re-engagement, I need some clarity, I just need someone to tell me what to do for 4 weeks, go download it. It's 20 pages, gives you a little bit of the who, what, when, where, and why, and how to implement fasting over the next 4 weeks.
I love that. Yeah. And how to kind of expand your thinking into fast cycles and how to actually implement it in a way that's going to continue to move the needle and start building those foundations for long-term success. So I absolutely love that.
And it's free. Oh, and by the way, we have a challenge coming up. Tommy, what's the date? End of December. My gosh. End of January.
Yeah. I'll come back. We
decided on, I believe, January 22nd, correct?
I'll confirm that in just a minute.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember if we decided on the 22nd or the 29th. You think we'd be better at this by now. So while you do that, I'm going to share a couple of things that was really cool that we saw from our Spotify, creator account, podcast account. In 2024, because one of the biggest things about the sustainable change, and we'll talk about one of the 10 key success factors at the end, after we go rat-a-tat-tat through the episodes and highlight them just for a few minutes, is that this lifestyle needs community because it needs support and encouragement. Because if you're doing something now, when we started the podcast 5 years ago, almost 4 million downloads ago, fasting was still kind of like, oh, what the hell? Why would you do that? Now you can search fasting and there's all these different podcasts, and there's insulin sensitive podcasts, and there's metabolic podcasts. And so there's almost like this awakening to metabolic health, right? And it's really cool to see. And I'm excited about what lies ahead in 2025. So in 2024, our podcast, which is really cool, it was streamed in 114 countries. So I wanted you guys to know that, like, you may be listening on your device, driving down the road or on the treadmill or, in the grocery store, right, trying to make better food decisions, or you might be struggling through white knuckling through a fast right now.
Yeah. You could be on Struggle Bus Island by yourself, right? That could be how it feels.
Well, there's 114 minimum, one person in 114 other countries that could be on that journey with you right now.
Yeah.
Which was
That's cool.
Really cool. Now, obviously the US was our top country. And interestingly enough, this was I would not have thought this, but I'm going to take this as an indirect compliment.
Okay.
That the shows that our listeners listen to, the other top shows, right, that you guys listen to as listeners are the Joe Rogan Experience.
Okay, that makes sense. He's everywhere.
Yeah, like the Podfather.
Right. Yeah.
Did you know where he got his start? He went on. Remember Tom Green?
I do remember Tom Green.
Crazy loony Tom Green.
He was a maniac. Yep.
He was. Well, he literally was the first one Rogan went on his show.
Oh yeah.
And was like, "What is this? We can just hang out and talk. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is crazy." And now he's Joe.
That's way back,
right? So Jerry, and then we've got the Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett.
Oh,
which he is on my routine podcast listening list.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yep, which I love. Then I'll take that as a compliment. And then also Huberman Lab, who is like Andrew Huberman, who's one of my favorite.
He's awesome.
If you're listening, I can't wait for your new resource to come out. Can't remember the name of it, but it's like protocols. And I'm like, oh gosh, because listening and then trying to do it. And then it's just a lot.
Practical application of like cutting edge neuroscience though. And
man,
so many other things too. Yeah. He's a powerhouse.
And then we've got one of the fasting OGs in the fasting space who's been here a lot longer than we have is Jen Stevens with Intermittent Fasting Stories, which is her second or third podcast.
Okay.
Which was really cool. So I'll take that as our listeners have good taste is what I'm getting at here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So keep it up. And then one of my favorite people on the planet, I've seen her speak live, is Mel Robbins.
Oh man, she's great.
In her podcast, right? So
that's awesome. What a list.
Yeah, just get on her email list, buy her books. She's just a warm, fuzzy hug. Like
and so real and so practical and applicable too. Yep. Like she gets it and she cuts through the BS. She cuts through the nonsense too. She's great.
Yeah, and just a couple other cool things here. Our listener audiobook genres that people listen to: health and wellness, self-help, and then mystery thriller, which I found interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then this is our push to actually do some video because 80% of our listeners want video. Nice. And I found that really interesting. Now, one thing I do want to highlight is that we had a 600. I'm trying to look for the number. I had it written down, Tommy.
Okay.
What was the number our number one downloaded episode of all time?
Yeah, it was episode number 1, and that was downloaded and played 605% more than like the next one in line. So episode number 1, at least 600% more than the average episode. So that one's really cool as like a standout fundamental, keystone as far as practical application. What is the purpose of this podcast? What can it do? What are the connection points to you as a listener? A lot of really cool things.
So I want to give a shout out to y'all because we wouldn't be here without you. So episode 1 is something that we'd mention a lot, right? On every episode, we're like, go back, listen to episode 1. So it's almost, 88,000 people have listened to that episode.
That's cool.
That's just the downloads we know about, right? Because it's not exactly exact science.
Yeah.
Those are individual listeners. So that's not just downloads, but that's individual listens.
Very cool.
And that's really cool because when I was in private practice, I would have had to have been in private practice. I did the math once. It was like 180 something years to have that many people come through the doors.
Wow.
To hear the impact that we can make. So
amazing.
We got a 4.7 rating. We've got thousands of ratings. We've got hundreds of 5-star ratings. And we just want to, at this time of year, going through the holidays, we're just incredibly grateful for y'all allowing us to continue to do this and provide value. And it's just incredible because our mission at Fasting for Life is to put a dent and take on the obesity, diabetes, blood sugar, chronic lifestyle health condition epidemic that we have here in this country. So we've been preaching this stuff in private practice for over 15 years, my own health journey since I was a teenager. So it's cool to now see what our listeners are up to and who they are. So we do want to get to know you. We love getting to know you inside of our challenges and coaching programs. And And it is really just an absolute blessing that we get to do this. So as we start and end 2024 and go into 2025, let's get into the actual list itself, Tommy.
Okay. Let me give the challenge date though. Come back to that. So it's January 29th is the next challenge. So that's what we landed on. Yeah.
Great. So we will be January 29th, which is awesome. I can't wait for that. So it'll be January 29th. It is a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Keep a lookout. You'll get an email. You'll see the link in the show notes. So
yeah, you can register now. Come on in. Let's do
this. Fantastic. Come on in. Let's do it. So episode breakdown. Here we go. Episode 228, 230, 232, 235, 236, 217, 218, 219, 220, and 227. Why in that order? We don't know. Why did we hit a sweet spot in the late teens, the 2 teens and the 230s in terms of most interacted, download, listened to, shared episodes? We're not sure, and we don't care. But what we want to do is share with you kind of just the takeaways. And this is a great place to start if you're looking to re-engage for 2025. If you're looking to start fresh, if you're new to the podcast, this is going to apply to each and every one of you because we talked about those core themes in the beginning. And now we're going to talk about the episode. So episode 228 was really one of our resources that we have, which is the 6 types of fasting benefits, like the main checkpoints that you're going to hit as you go from 12 hours of fasting all the way up to 72-hour fasting, and what the physiology, the underlying physiology, not the scale, not the weight, but the actual underlying physiology that you're going to see the benefits from fasting outside of the weight loss and all of the other things.
Yeah, I love to think about that one as like the why am I doing this again? Like when you have your timer set, you made the decision, let's say it's for a 40-hour fast. I'm running head to head with hour number 28 right here. And what am I doing again? Because like the pantry or the fridge is kind of calling my name right now. I got stomach grumbles going crazy. I'm smelling food, whatever the case may be. People are eating around me. Why am I doing that again? So when you keep the things that are the big benefits in mind, it makes it a little bit easier. I'm not saying it makes the decision for you. I'm not saying it's magic, but
it's not a magic pill.
Yeah, but it gives you a counterbalance, to something to focus on. That's not just my stomach is grumbling right now and everyone can hear it, So understanding growth hormone and autophagy that's taking place, your gut and the intestinal stem cells that are getting a chance to regenerate that doesn't normally happen because normally we have food coming in every few hours, right? And it's literally like a physical process that once you pause it for a little while, new cellular processes get to take place. Getting into deeper levels of ketosis, what happens within your immune system and even your stem cell production. We get into a lot of those specifics in that episode. I really love that episode.
And if you're looking for the resource itself, just head to episode 228. You can download it. It's a visual of the different checkpoints, autophagy and gut and deep ketosis and stem cell production and BDNF and all of those great things. So it's something cool to have. It's a great resource. I'm not surprised that this is on the list, right? So the benefits of fasting on a timeline and that underlying physiology. So the next one that we're going to go into is episode 230. And this was a research article on low carb versus calories. And it was really looking at the new study on insulin's role in fat storage, which was a really cool article because I remember there's always that question, quantity versus quality when it comes to food choices. And we're big proponents. We're not dogmatic about you could be vegetarian, vegan, pescatarian, carnivore. I lean more towards the carnivore keto type lifestyle because that's what works for me. I have a wife who lives on about 250 grams of carbs a day, natural carbs, of course, because the one thing that we are dogmatic about is that the refined, processed, highly palatable foods that are modified and engineered to make us crave them, that's the stuff we want to remove from our diet. But in terms of food quality or versus quantity, that conversation we had in episode 230 was really cool because it goes back to that overview of sustainable lifestyle versus quick fixes, because we talk about strategic low carb periods. We talk about like the way your body expresses or responds to the changes in diet and how ultimately we believe that fasting and a lower carb approach with focusing on the food timing at the start is really how to get momentum.
Yeah.
With the fasting lifestyle. So I remember that conversation clearly. Really great research, but also some really cool life applications as well.
Yeah, and it gives you a sense of understanding what are my balance points, what are my leverage points when it comes to making food decisions. Because we talked a lot about food noise and the number of food decisions that we're going to come across in a day. Even when we're fasting, it's like there's all these subconscious questions and things that kind of come up. And so just getting a little bit more confidence in making your food choices, kind of deciding on your style of eating, and also knowing that it's okay to kind of rotate your style of eating as well.
Yes.
So if you're doing low carb and it's for a relatively short period of time because you're using that as like a keto cycle, let's say,
or a weight loss tool or a fasting optimizer because it makes fasting easier, whatever the application.
Right. And that may not be your long-term plan. And even your long-term plan might also involve rotating your eating style from time to time. So it's really cool to kind of understand what some of your leverage points are there and get a little bit more flexible and strategic with them at the same time.
So the next episode is one of the things that we talk diligently about. We have a whole day dedicated to it in our challenges. Is when the scale fails. Not if, but when.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen because you're going to do everything right. Here's the tricky part about the scale is like you hop on the scale one morning and you did everything perfect the day before and it doesn't reward you right now. Women, monthly cycle, hormone cycle, absolutely. Poor sleep, stress, all of these factors.
Yeah.
Haven't used the bathroom yet, ate a late meal, like all of this stuff can factor, right? So you get on, you're like, oh man, it didn't reward me. All right, fine. You get that feeling like, all right, am I really going to like be on it today? Am I really going to stick to my timer?
I was on it yesterday. Was it worth it? Right there in that moment.
But the opposite problem is we see just as much, which is you get on the scale, you didn't do everything right. Right? There was some slippage, as we like to call it. Yeah. In terms of food choices or fat. And we're not aiming for perfection. We always, 80-20 rule. We talk about that here later in one of the other episodes as one of the big takeaways. Or the key success factors, the 10 key success factors of these episodes, right? So we had the 4 core topics and then these episodes and then the success factors we'll share here in just a minute. But the opposite situation is even worse, is when you don't do everything right and the scale kind of gives you a little pat on the back, like, all right, good job, buddy. And then you're like, ooh, I got room. Yeah. Ooh, I didn't have to be like disciplined, or, I made some less than choices or cut my fast short or didn't stick to the plan or whatever. That makes it that scenario is just as difficult. Could be worse. Or more difficult. Yeah. Yeah. Could be worse because then you have this mental slippage wiggle room. And depending on what that's a key moment right there. Yep. And then the decision that you make based off of that feeling right there is literally, that's a pretty strong steering point for what's going to happen over the next day, the next coming days, and could be even the coming weeks too. Yep. And then, so I know I said a few minutes ago, I'm surprised that like we kind of hit the sweet spot here, but I'm starting to see a theme as we're going through these now. So it'll be fun to share the top 10 practices here in just a minute. Really with the scale, it's focus on measurements and non-scale victories, right? So does the clothes fit better? Do you have better energy? How's your sleep? How's your libido? How's your relationships? Like there's a lot of things that can happen in a journey, body composition, right? That are not just that stupid little piece of plastic glass metal that has batteries in it on the floor, right? So shoot, if you're doing serious weight training, or you're starting to hit the gym in a different way, or you're kind of pushing your boundaries in physical activity, the scale might be staying the same, or it could be creeping up, and your body composition is changing for the better, more muscle, less fat, and your fasting could be getting a little bit easier, or in some times it could be getting a little bit more difficult too. So there's a lot of different things that could be kind of shifting at one point. So just to live and die by what the scale is doing is really like setting yourself up for failure right there. Yep. So healthy weight loss expectations, managing plateaus, building sustainable habits. We talk about all of that in episode 232. So the next episode we're going to go into, Tommy, is episode 235, which is food. Yeah. Or excuse me, not food, non-food practices. Yeah. We do talk a lot about food choices. For sure. This is top non-food practices that you can do to help balance your circadian biology your stress response, improve your sleep, get moving, and optimize your health and weight loss journey. So I remember this episode because it was the first time we've ever had this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's things like delaying your morning coffee 60 to 90 minutes, proper hydration.
I think we lost some listeners when we said that, actually, right there.
Yeah, I don't care.
That one ruffled some feathers, I think.
But we got some messages. What do you mean? Why?
Yeah.
You know who actually heard that on was Bartlett, the CEO, Stephen Bartlett's podcast. Is where I first heard that from Chris Willix. And I was like, oh man, let me go look into that. I was like, crap, he's right. Dang it. Now I got to do it. As I am holding a coffee cup that has the molecular structure of caffeine on it.
Right. But did you delay the caffeine?
That's my first coffee of the day. And it's whatever time. I mean, it's a lot later than I would normally be chugging caffeine. So.
Well, so that's good. But your cortisol rhythm matters.
Yeah,
right?
It does.
It matters for your stress response. It matters for your fasting lifestyle and for what the scale is doing too. And it leads right into proper hydration protocols, which we talked about on that episode as well. Supplementing with salt, what that looks like. It's not just all about the water. There's other factors there as well. And they are going to affect what the scale does, how you feel, how easy or hard your fast is. And, and then we got into some of the mind-body practices as well, some of the breathing techniques and some of the movement techniques that are very, very helpful too.
You're going to see some overlap here in the next few episodes, so we're going to go through these quickly. But and then in that one, it's sleep and walking and movement and how to simplify these day-to-day practices, right? So Absolutely. Episode 235, episode 236, we went into the mindset component, the motivation component, how motivation's a myth. I'll give a shout out to episode 125, which is one of our most downloaded episodes in terms of willpower, won't power, and want power.
Yeah.
And the mythical creature willpower. So we talk about fasting motivations, like understanding why you do this, right? Your core values, setting some process-based goals rather than just a big weight loss goal or a big reverse diabetes goal or a big come off a medication goal. Like that stuff can set yourself up for failure if you don't have the sustainability, like we talked about in the core, one of the core 4 themes that kind of runs throughout all these episodes. So then you're going to look at, the non-scale victories. And, Mel Robbins is great at this, practicing self-compassion, right? So episode 235, 236, there's some overlap there, but it's all about, it still fits under those umbrellas of those core themes about a sustainable lifestyle and that mental mindset transformation, which leads right into episode 217, 218, and 219, which are daily routines, non-negotiables, and a Q&A deep dive that has a lot to do with friends, family, outside influence.
Yeah. I mean, getting into what decisions you're making that are small, but they're day to day. They come up often. And just kind of getting away from what's easy to feel like in the moment, especially if you have a big, hairy, audacious goal, like what you mentioned, like maybe it's reversing a disease process or getting off a certain medication, or maybe it's a large chunk of fat that you'd like to burn through. It can get really easy to fixate on the end result based goal, but we really need to chunk it down into smaller, more digestible parts. And then we also need to remember that each day we make small decisions. They really do add up to which way we're steering and how we're seeing results or not seeing results for our fasting lifestyle, what's going on the scale and our overall health. It's not just about the big overarching, changes that are like sweeping changes. Think New Year's resolution and all those kind of things. No, it comes down to the small decisions. Like, did I delay my coffee today? Did I supplement with some salt? Did I make one better food choice than I did yesterday? Small things like that add up, right?
Yeah. So these episodes are cool because there's some overlap. It's like mindful eating practices, clean fasting windows, strategic meal timing, hydration, sleep, regular movement, no liquid calories, protein prioritization. Oh, wait, there's some clean fasting windows and sleep again. Taking an immediate action rather than waiting,
don't wait.
Right?
Yeah, don't wait.
Don't wait. Like, take an action. And then the family social situations, breaking plateaus, strategic longer fast, how to handle keto, and scale management. So there's a lot of overlap there in terms of the conversation, but it's cool because that last one, that Q&A deep dive, we talk a lot about that outside influence. Like, so the family social situations, you'll hear us say this. There's an article that came out in 2021 by Marie Spreckley and her team, and it showed that there are 4 core categories of reasons why people couldn't keep the weight off. They can lose the weight, but ultimately they give it back within 2 to 3 years. And that sustainability part, which is very, very much a problem, comes down to a lot of those times, those outside influences. So we like to say the plan can change, but that doesn't mean your plans have to. So episode 217, 18, 19 were cool. And it leads right into 220, which is where we talk about the sustainable blueprint. So how do you develop these daily routines? How do you have or manage that environmental, familial, societal, stop-to-gone, as we like to say, support piece, where we're looking at those different categories of things that derail you. And then, looking at balancing your or personalizing your nutrition choices, setting achievable goals, and knowing that you have being flexible, but also consistent and disciplined is an interesting conversation. So I love episode 220 as well.
Yeah, flexible consistency is one of those things where at first glance, it could feel like an oxymoron. Flexible consistency. Like, what is that?
What are you calling me right now? Sorry,
right. Yeah. But when you think about adapting a fasting lifestyle or any lifestyle change, lifestyle transformation, something where you go, you know what? I've been doing things differently and I need to do things differently and I want to do things differently. But how do I actually bridge the gap between where I am now and where I want to ultimately go? Well, I mean, it's small shifts rather than trying to take a big chunk and then you have like a yes or no, did it work? Did it not work? Throw the baby out with the bathwater potential situation. So flexible consistency literally means continuing to take that next action and getting feedback from how it went. But then even if you got negative feedback, you still take the next action. Okay, I'm going to try it a little bit differently this time. Maybe I haven't quite done it long enough. Like those first few longer fasts or those first few OMADs might be very, very difficult. They might be, uncomfortable and difficult and frustrating. But each time you do it, usually it gets a little bit easier. So it's worth continuing anyway.
Yep, absolutely. And the last episode out of the top 10 for 2024 year in review is episode 227, which is a 20-pound fat loss strategy. So this actually had the most downloads, right? So it was like an episode, all right, if you want to fast and lose 20 pounds, how are you going to do it? You want to do it quickly, right? You want to put some fire behind it, right? You're motivated, but you want to lose 20 pounds. Well, we talk about realistic goal setting. We talk about the 80-20 rule, right? So restrict but don't omit. We talk about limiting alcohol and processed foods. We talk about movement patterns and how to integrate what's the best movement to get the weight moving when you're in a fat loss phase using fasting. And ta-da, once again, stress and sleep management. So it was a really succinct way to kind of say, all right, we got somebody that wants to lose 20 pounds. You can use the same, 20 to 30 pounds, similar strategy. What would you do? Well, that episode talks all about that. And I remember that because it was the first time we've had the conversation like that, putting like a succinct target on it.
Yeah.
And now I understand why, looking back, why the stats show what it was in terms of the interaction with that episode.
That's really cool. And like, just looking back at limiting alcohol and processed foods, that's another one of those where it's like, man, a little perspective goes a long way. Understanding how much those two things actually affect your results on a day-to-day and a week-to-week and a month-to-month basis. But then the other one, the sleeper, if you will, was the sleep and stress management, because that one literally can determine 30 to 50% of your metabolic rate, of your actual caloric burn rate whenever you're—
Say that again.
Burning.
Slow down. Yeah. Say that one more time. Because
sleep and stress management is surprisingly— those two things can determine between 30 and 50% of your metabolic rate, your caloric burn rate. You're trying to burn through some long-term fat stores here, right? And so the point is to use strategic meal timing in order to do that. But with improper sleep and or stress management, you can literally cut down the efficiency of your results by up to 50%. And that's really tricky. But if you look at the physiology research, the the numbers don't lie, because your body's efficiency and your body's metabolism are largely affected by your sleep and your stress.
30 to 50%. So you're telling me it's not just fasting and food?
It's not.
For some of us.
Those are big pieces of the puzzle for sure, but
not for sustainability, right?
Yeah.
We got to look at the whole picture, right? So let's go over as we wrap up today, Tommy, the key success factors. So we started the episode talking about the core themes: sustainable versus quick fixes, right? Metabolic health beyond weight loss, the mental mindset shift or transformation that needs to take place. And then obviously we love to talk the science of lifestyle design, so the practical application and systems. Mm-hmm. So episode 228, 230, 232, 235, 236, 217, 18, 19, 20, and 227. Just looking at the overview of the key success factors, right? The things that really, that were the connection points or the threads of action that were taken to drive results. And those are going to be consistent fasting windows. So no more willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Consistent fasting windows, strategic food choices. So not just, I'm fasting, I can eat whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
That can work short term, but not long term. Then we mentioned it over and over again: sleep and stress management, getting moving, pulling the lever of movement and steps and walking in low intensity, steady state exercise.
Yeah.
And having proper support systems. That's number 5. Number 6 is progress tracking, regular tracking to get you the little steps in between the big, hairy, audacious goal that lives off in Peter Pan's Never Never Land, right? Then you've got proper hydration, not just drinking water, but hydrating properly. Then you've got your environmental component, the outside in forces that can derail you quickly, right? In terms of saying yes to things that don't serve your long-term position, and ultimately focusing on the non-scale victory and trying to make this process fun as you go through this transformation, because that ultimately is going to get the lifestyle to set, the habits to really be ingrained, and ultimately get you to your long-term sustainable goal.
Man, I love that. Especially like that non-scale victory focus. Be on the lookout for non-scale victories, and don't feel silly celebrating a small win, because it's like the scale's not necessarily going to reward you today, but if you take a good fasting action, a good long-term action, then I mean, that's a big win right there. And you might notice like little small shifts in your mindset or your decisions or what you are willing to say no to. That can be a big one too, especially if that's part of a behavioral pattern for you. So you never know when the next where you're going to find the next win. So be on the lookout for it for sure. There's just like success leaves clues, so sometimes you just have to be really creative at actually finding those clues.
That's a perfect transition into wrapping up the episode today, Tommy. Cool. Success leaves clues, right? So excited that 2024 was just incredible in terms of the growth and the exposure and the reach and and just the community and just the transformations that we're able to see. Yeah. And the learning and just being on this journey with you. So grateful for all of you for listening in. Grateful if you're just welcome if you're new. Go back and listen to some of the episodes for 2024. We've really been on this kick of prepping and getting 2025 to be a launch pad to sustainability, to lifestyle transformation, and ultimately get you the results and the health that you are looking for and ultimately deserve. So as we wrap up 2024 and put a bow on it, we want to wish you a happy and healthy new year. And Tommy, appreciate the conversation, sir. We'll see you in 2025.
Cool. Thank you. Bye. So you've heard today's episode and you may be wondering, where do I start? Head on over to thefastingforlife.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive fasting tips and strategies to maximize results and fit fasting into your day-to-day life.
While you're there, download your free Fast Start guide to get started today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Fasting for Life.